Every now and then a story comes along that's so personal, but at the same time feels like it could be about any one of us. Well, we're about to dive into one of those stories, a really powerful memoir about a journey from absolute chaos to a life built on pure resilience. It's a great reminder that our toughest beginnings can actually forge our greatest strengths. And this quote from the author really just sets the tone, doesn't it? Hope, perseverance, and an endless pursuit of passion? It's such a powerful idea that our purpose isn't just about getting through the hard times, but about finding something meaningful right in the middle of it all. So let's start at the very beginning of that search. All right, so when you think about a hero's journey, you usually picture it starting in some kind of normal, ordinary world. Well, for the author of this story, ordinary was anything but. His world was pure chaos, both out on the streets and inside his own home. I mean, just try to imagine this. You're born in 1987 in Romania, right as a massive revolution is about to kick off. When the regime finally fell in '89, it didn't just magically bring peace. It left this huge vacuum with a whole nation scrambling for some kind of stability. And he talks about seeing this as a little kid. The streets were just buzzing with what he calls the palpable desperation of people hoping for a better place to live. And that feeling, that national uncertainty, it didn't just stay outside. It seeped right through the front door of his small home. He remembers this heaviness in the air, a darkness that was both real and, metaphorical. It was just filled with tension and fear. The chaos of a country was basically playing out in the life of one small family. And here, you really see the two extremes of his childhood. On one hand, you have his mother, just this pillar of incredible strength, working multiple jobs, even skipping her own meals just to make sure her kids were fed. What a lesson in determination, right? But then on the other side, you have his father, who kind of embodied the struggle of the times, really wrestling with alcohol and a sense of despair. He was basically caught between these two worlds, hope and hardship, right from the very beginning. So, as you can probably guess, a childhood like that leads to a pretty difficult start to adulthood. He finds himself at this major crossroads, where the next move he makes is going to define pretty much everything. And look, when you grow up surrounded by that much desperation, it's pretty easy to understand how someone might make some questionable choices. In his early 20s, he was looking for a way out, any way out. And he made some decisions that, yeah, they brought in money, but they came at a really heavy price. He could feel his own integrity just slipping away, realizing that the quick money was costing him his sense of self. The real turning point came during one particularly brutal winter. He talks about spending night after night driving through the city with a taxi driver, and that whole experience became this powerful metaphor for his own life. The cold, the endless roads. It was like he was just driving in circles, mirroring the aimless and honestly dangerous path he was on. Every single ride was forcing him to face where he was actually going. And it all just boiled down to this one question. I was making money, but at what cost? It sounds so simple, but it's just profound. He finally saw that the empty lifestyle he was living was a complete dead end. He knew he couldn't just wait around for the inevitable crash. That was the moment. That's when he decided he had to change everything. And that decision, well, that's what kicks off the next huge chapter of his life. A classic call to adventure. He made the absolutely massive choice to leave everything and everyone he had ever known behind. I mean, this was no small thing. It came from that same deep-seated desperation, but now there was something new mixed in, this powerful yearning for something more. He'd watched his friends and neighbors leave, one by one, chasing after new lives. And he said it created a deeper void within me, echoing with the possibilities of what could be. But, leaving wasn't some magic fix. Not by a long shot. In fact, that's when the real ordeal began. His new life was just this grueling, day-to-day battle for survival. Imagine having just a handful of coins in a jar. That's your entire lifeline. And it's only enough for a single loaf of bread. His meals were tiny rations, 6 cans of beans and 7 cans of corn. It was a stark, brutal reality check of just how far he still had to climb. Okay, but this is where the story really starts to turn. This is the part where all that resilience learned from a lifetime of hardship really starts to pay off. He stops being a victim of his circumstances and starts becoming the architect of his own future. And you can literally see his transformation step by step. He started right at the bottom, as a traffic marshal, But that determination he had, people noticed. His commitment got him promoted to site supervisor, which was a role that really challenged him and helped him build up his leadership skills. And from there, the climb just kept going. So you fast forward to 2022, and he's reached the top of that particular climb, an established assistant manager in London. He went from barely surviving to actually thriving. And that fear that used to drive him was replaced by a real spirit of adventure. He had completely forged a new path for himself. So what's the whole point of this incredible journey? Well, this brings us to the final act. This is where the hero, totally transformed, returns with what you might call the elixir, the lessons, the wisdom that he can now share with all of us. And this right here. For me, this is one of the most powerful realizations in the entire book. For years, he'd held on to this hope that someone or something was going to come rescue him from it all. The big shift happened when he finally got it. No one was coming. He had to be his own savior. And that right there is the very core of self-motivation. And his journey gives us these really powerful lessons. Resilience, it's not just about surviving on beans and corn. It's about finding the melody even in the middle of that storm. He wants us to get that our darkest chapters, like those lonely nights in a strange city, they aren't the end of the story. And the real measure of a life, it's not the money he used to chase, but the love and connection he has now. And finally, it's that quiet voice of perseverance, the one that pushed him onto a new path, that will always be there to guide us through the shadows. And here it is. This is the result of all that perseverance. Today, he's in his home in the UK, looking back on his journey not with bitterness, but with real gratitude and this deep sense of accomplishment. The joy and the stability he feels with his wife and child is just such a massive contrast to the chaos of his own childhood. It's a beautiful, full-circle moment. So, in the end, the author leaves us with this final, powerful thought. He took a story of chaos and turned it into a story of triumph because he took control of the narrative. His journey is really an invitation for all of us to do the same. So the question isn't just for him anymore, it's for you. What will you write on the next page?